All right, good evening. Welcome to the November Forum of Calumet Revisited, which is in its 9th season. I am Michael Bowles of the Association for the Wolf Lake Initiative. I am co-host with Dr. Valerie Penninan of Calumet College of St. Joseph. Say hi, Valerie.
Hi, everyone.
Okay. Calumet Revisited is funded in part by the Indiana Humanities and the National Endowment for the Humanities. Before we hear from tonight's speakers, are there any announcements? If not, I have two. The 6th Annual Wolf Lake Watershed Advisory Committee meets all day this Friday at Calumet College. Also, the Calumet Nature Exchange meets via Zoom at 7 p.m. Tuesday, November 15. Licensed teachers in Illinois and Indiana can earn 1 hour of professional development credit for attending. The presentation this evening is being recorded. The recording will be available within a week on Ollie's website. Would everyone please remain on mute? After the presentation, we will have a question and answer session. Tonight, we will hear from artist Roman Villarreal and Felix Maldonado, who will be talking about street art. As we get started, I would like our guests first to define the term street art. What do they mean by street art?
Who go first?
Can start.
Who? Want me to go first?
Go ahead, Roman. You got it, Roman. You can start off.
Well, basically to me, street art is art that is free and at the whim of the artist. In other words, a lot of times, you have to wait for grants or something like this, but when an artist does something on a whim, like what we're doing over the years, you're doing it art for the sake of art. That's the main objective of street art to me. I mean, there's more in depth to that, but that's the most bottom line. It's the purity of creativity that the artist is sharing with the world without the permission and the authority of anybody, and you're doing it just for the art for the sake of art. That's my quick definition.
Felix?
That was a good one. That's a very good one, and I have to agree with practically everything that Roman said. I agree with that. The way I pretty much envision street art growing up, at least, is through it was a sort of a lifestyle, so to speak. It was a movement that I was in. So, we in the times when Roman or a sculpture out there, like you said, it wasn't funded. It was out of the heart, and that's the same. We run a parallel between his generation and the hip hop graffiti generation. We do it for the love. We do it for ourselves, and the name, became more than eventually the culture became more competitive. So it became for clout. But all in all, it's for the people. It's for that's where I stand.
Okay. So I'm just going to leave this up to the two of you, but and could you give me recent participation in street art that you were both involved in, or at least one of you?
Well, me personally, I was there this summer when they did the meeting of styles. Now, me as an example, I didn't participate. I support it. That's very important. I support the movement by giving advice or anywhere where I could help out with certain issues that arise. I jump in on them. because see what happens is here, I'm a sculptor by profession. And a sculptor usually works by himself. You know, we very rarely do we work in group projects, even though it can be done. But we very rarely ever work together on any project. Like the most I'll ever work with is somebody to help me or somebody to do something like that. Whereas the movement that Flex and everybody belongs to, Brother Felix, is more of a group project type thing. And it amazes me is the networking they have amongst each other all over the world in the United States on what they're doing. So it's a big step forward from when we were doing it, because when we were doing the early works, ours was message orientated. In other words, that was farm worker. So there was something always involved. As it progressed, the art became more and to me, it's like our contribution to the world through the street art that developed in what it is now. That's why it's so interesting to see this young group of Meeting of Styles and all these artists that I've met over the last 20 years, the purity in what they're doing. And then as I got older, I realized how many categories there is in this profession. It's not just street art. No, it goes into different productions. As I'm pretty sure Felix will be able to explain to you a lot more. It's a lot more involved than when we were doing this type of work in the early years.
Yeah, no, I agree, Roman, and thank you for that. Although I'm 50, so I'm not a young cat no more. But yeah, man, thanks for the nod on that one. But I've got 35 years now experience in this, and it's what Roman said. It's become something else now. From what my experience is in street art is, okay, because again, Roman and I, we run a parallel, to different generations, but the basis is the same. It really still remains the same. It's just the culture changes, styles change. This became a movement of such. That right there just has to progress. I mean, it has to, and then the things that the kids that what they're doing now is amazing. I mean, we have like programs where we could do 3D or virtual art now. I mean, 3D or lettering, what now? Or we have the virtual goggle thing where you can actually do a mural in the streets of San Francisco from your bedroom. So those kind of things, change is good. Change is real good. And just to go back with what Roman was talking about, the production part of it, the event that we that Roman we so thankfully appreciate supports is an event that's called Meeting of Styles. Meeting of Styles is basically a loose organization, pretty much formed organically throughout the world, where every month there's a different country that's representing, if not every week, there's a different country representing Meeting of Styles. So Meeting of Styles, Chicago happened about September 16th or something. It was a nice 2-day event. And so, we all the other crews from, Chicago, and not only that, but the Midwest, come into town. I mean, just people that's come that we meet every year from different parts of the country, if not the world, Mexico City, Germany. So like Roman said, yeah, the connection and the brotherhood that we have now, it's just gotten so much bigger, through the resources that we have today, and just through being able to organize these type of events that Roman, so happily supports. And we thank you for that, Roman.
Thank you. Well, to add to that, which is interesting to me, is where are we going in the next 10 years? Because like Brother Felix was just mentioning right now, it's interesting to me that there's so many things out there that artists are using now that for me, I'm like a caveman. I mean, I have no idea how these things work, what's going on, but it's amazing.
Man, I'm getting there too, Roman. I'm getting there too, man. I don't know about that goggle stuff. I don't know. So yeah, but
so it's amazing to me. It's amazing. It's in the world of the street art. We never stop learning. That's the beauty of it. It's evolving into something. I could imagine if we're allowed to be here another 20 years, what's going to happen in 20 years. The evolution of the street art is really a strong contribution to art history that was born here, and it belongs. It's just, I believe this is where the seed. Now, the dispute will always be where it originally came from. That's another long story. I'm pretty sure Brother Felix could give us a little bit more detail on that. But I heard this. Now, this is me from the early days when I met the first brothers from New York. They were taking claim for it. Then you started hearing the stories from California. They said, no, California. So it's interesting to me where the birth came from, but it's here. That's the beauty of it. And it's growing. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for this type of artwork, because for me, for instance, I very rarely ever use a spray can, but to take a spray can and create the type of art that they're doing, the tones, the textures, the perspective, it's just amazing to me. I remember the first time I ran into some of the early taggers when I moved into Indiana over in the jungle. I met this brother named Tone, real interesting young man. He was one of the actually first ones. So how we all met is I left a message. In other words, I drew a message on the wall. I just moved in, I got the studio on the corner, talk to me, brother. Well, a couple days later, Tone showed up. And this is when the door opened up to me and the movement and how powerful it was in Indiana, because that was their canvas. The jungle was the canvas where I used to go there myself personally. And every other day there was a new masterpiece. But the problem with the sculpture here is, as long as they took the picture, they didn't mind covering it up. I mean, that was part of the movement. Whereas in the old days, if you cover somebody's mural up, that's war. It's funny that the photograph was the most important thing in the documentation, which we lacked in the early days. So that's to me is kind of interesting to me. Brother Felix?
Well, yeah. Again, you're right. When we get together and we have productions, we sort of. Now, let me just step back a little bit and just explain a little bit too. Back when Romans and that era of muralism was being done, it had more of a message. Those were very political times. And so muralists, and street artists. Street artists, muralists. Street artists and muralists now are becoming a very blurred line. You know what I mean? So they're in the. If you're a muralist and you're painting something that's on the street, then is it street art? Or if you're a graffiti artist doing a mural, and you're considered a graffiti artist, then are you a muralist? Or so anyway, let me step back a little bit and say that in those times, there was no spray can. People weren't using it, the way we are now. So the message behind murals back then, the street art back then, was it had a message, and it had creates an impact, right? Whereas nowadays, I feel that there's a lot of aesthetics now being put into the murals. They're done for aesthetic reasons. They're not a particular message. Although some artists, some muralists, some street artists do incorporate messages or ideals in their work. Rightfully so. There's artists that out there that are just simply doing it for the sheer aesthetic and maybe just fun of it. And that's so it's that era has helped us out a lot. So it's we're getting a lot of now choices of what we can do now. Back then, like Roman said, you paint a mural up there and that's supposed to be there forever. It's got a meaning and everything. Someone else goes over it, forget about it. Whereas now in the times that I grew up, we had to learn, like the Buddha sense of saying how, when those they do these mandalas made of sand, right? They do this intricate patterns and of all the different colors, and it takes them days, if not weeks, to make it. And then they do a blessing or ceremony, and then they just wipe it right off. That's the kind of mentality as a street artist, as a graffiti artist, we kind of have to have. Is that if it's not there tomorrow, then that's that's just the way life is, and you can't get too hard up on it. Now, if you got some sort of confrontation or beef with somebody like we, back in the day, okay, that's different, right? But nowadays, if it's gone over the next day, whatever, most likely it's because it's a popular space, or it just becomes that norm, where like you're not going to expect to see your piece up, like you used to. So, and that's why with the same thing with trains, the street art, I mean, where else do you see street art aside from the walls? It'd be on trains. So trains were also awesome. You can't. I mean, imagine painting a piece, doing a mural, or doing a masterpiece, like Roman says, and then just watch it go away. That's just the thing. That's the magic of it. You have to think that way. We had to come up with that sort of perception of knowing that nothing's forever. So, so if anybody asks, like, how do you feel about this mural, or how do you feel about that mural being torn down, or, like the Jackson 5 mural in Gary, or the environmental center that I painted, it's just, at this point, you hope to say that you fulfilled what the client wanted, what you wanted out of it. You hope that, it inspired enough stories in people, so that, it makes a difference. And if it does, and if it just captured one at least, then I did my job, and that's the way I got to see it. And that's the way I see it moving forward.
No, that's interesting. I started using the term urban anthropologist.
Yeah.
And the reason I was using that term was because if you want to know what happened during a certain period, you go to the arts to see what happened. But what's interesting about the new movement right now is documentation. I believe that a lot of these young artists who've been in the game for the last 10, 15 years, 20 years, their documentation is amazing. I could see books that could be put together and show the trend, the evolution of the art to where it is at this level now. Because you do see the changes. And I was very fortunate to be able to see some of these young brothers as they evolved to the other level, the higher level that they're at now, which is totally amazing. So I know that documentation is there. It's not like I said earlier, it's not like when we were going that we didn't document. We used to talk about it and we shared amongst each other, but we lacked in documentation, which is not lacking now. So I really, really, whoever hears this podcast or this Zoom thing, encourage future people to consider putting these archives together in some type of informational thing that they could say, this is how the transition happened, how it went forward. Another thing, Brother Felix didn't answer whether New York or California. Who takes the credit, brother?
Oh, actually, I believe it's New Jersey. I believe it's, yeah, if you think about it, I think New Jersey, the early 70s, early 60s at that, there was some brothers out there doing their thing. So, New York jumped in very, very quickly, but I think that I'm not, I mean, I may be wrong, but I'm hearing that New Jersey actually kind of did some pioneering when it came to actual, street art in terms of like putting your name up, just for the sake of just letting the streets know you exist, that's was street art back then. So yeah, I would have to probably say Jersey, New York, they Philly came up too at around the same time. So it was a very unique upbringing of how that came about. So it's a hard question to answer, to tell you the truth. People are gonna have their own opinions, Everybody will say, "No, man, LA, no, not LA, no," because no, it came from the East Coast, that's for sure.
All right. Thank you. That's good. That's good.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So, Mike, and anybody else out there, any questions as we progress, or to add to what we're talking about?
Yes,
feel free.
I have one. Where can we see street art in Southeast Chicago and Northwest Indiana?
Well, that's a good point, because see, right now it's disingenuous what they're doing now. Now they had people that actually could take you on a tour, believe it or not. I know that in Pilsen, because of the quantity of murals that are out there, you could literally take a tour. But an actual tour of the actual murals that are all over Chicago is totally, totally amazing. Because a lot of the murals I know more are not just doing as far as they could reach. They're doing 2, 3 stories, like what the kind of work that Brother Felix is doing. I mean, that's 2, 3, 4-story buildings that they're doing. I mean, it didn't go, see, the early stuff I remember was the reach, how tall you were, how far the can went. That was the extent of how you were doing it. Now, it's whole buildings. And I believe that the tourism thing and visiting murals is going to grow because the mural movement has grown tremendously.
But
Here in Chicago. We got murals now.
Is that
that go
with
with
permission?
all the-
Is that
Huh?
with permission,
Oh, say that again, Mike?
Roman? Is that with
Yep.
permission?
Well,
Story building?
well, with or without, because you
Okay.
got to figure, like for instance, on the west side as an example, there's places where they've been tagging for years. And what happens is certain places, they tag them more than once over the years because of the way the paint sticks to the walls. But right now, I think if somebody that's creative and put together a tour to visit the murals, it would be amazing. And it would not take a couple hours. We're talking like about at least a 3-4 hour journey to see all these. As a perfect example, with Brother Felix's work just alone. I mean, he has dozens and dozens of works all over Indiana and Chicago. Then you have Brother Static, C's. I mean, I could go on naming people, Brother Trey. I mean, you could go on naming. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's
they're,
not
they're pretty
yet
much everywhere.
that we
Yeah.
can share with the public yet, because I think it would be a great tour. I mean, I myself would personally wouldn't mind touring it because I think it would be great to see and understand more of what happened. But to me, it's like hieroglyphics. You know, sometimes I would look at that and what does that say? And the people who did that, they know immediately. Well, that means this, and that. It's amazing to me. It's like it's interesting. You know, it's very, very interesting. So hopefully that somebody will eventually become creative enough to say, you know, let's put something together for the sake of the purity of the art, archive it. You know, I think that would be very important. You know, it's funny. I remember, I don't know if Brother Felix, if you remember one time we all had a show at the Cultural Center.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was what was it? The paint, paste, and sticker show. Yeah, that was at the Chicago Cultural Center. That was a huge street art event.
I know it was a huge success. I think that was one of the better ways of dealing with it because the crowd that was in there, you was able to better understanding on what the gift that was given to the city from these young people. For sure. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask the artist a question.
Sure.
My question to Roman and Felix is, you did a wonderful job, Roman, on the Steel Workers Park for
Thank you.
U.S. Steel and steel workers. I was at the unveiling. It was a great moment. My question is, Wisconsin Steel was one of the first steel mills built in the area, and there is nothing to commemorate that steel mill. The only thing that's left over there is on about 110th and Torrance, and it's a little red building where the workers would go in and enter the plant, go down the stairs and enter the plant. I've been pushing ideas to the alderwoman and to others. There has to be something to commemorate Wisconsin Steel. And that's the only thing that's left from that steel mill. I would love to see, with your creativity, both of you people, to do something to commemorate that long gone steel mill.
And I have a quick answer for that. You know what the answer is to that? Slag.
Please.
Slag is the rip that's what was left when the mill, you know, all the junk and all this, and it became this ugly looking stones. We have a lot of slag boulders all over the area that could be used to show what actually what it is, because it's man-made, but yet it's there forever.
Right.
That one's going to be there for thousands of years. Now all we have to do is
Oh,
somehow
definitely.
collaborate with the slag in some kind of artistic way, and then incorporate the fellow artists like Brother Felix and some of the other younger artists to add their touch to it and create
Right.
something along there. And it's all found objects that belong there. And this was something that was thrown away. This is something that was now what's interesting about slag is that even though it's ugly, you know, it's man-made, but it can never be forgotten.
True. Roman, is that shack that is still there on 110th and Torrance.
I worked at
It's
Wisconsin.
it's a red building that is covered by plant growth now, but that could be, you know, the mural for somebody with artistic talents like such as you guys.
Well, you know what's interesting, because ideas are really, really great, but you have to get participation of the community and the powers that be to be able to create monuments of this nature that will be there for a long time. It's a little bit of homework that has to be done, but there is nothing that can't be done. It's because you got to understand, if Detroit could do what Detroit did with their abandoned buildings, and you leave it to the artists are very creative. Like my favorite right now, I've talked to Mike and to a lot of people about this, the ore walls that face the lakefront. Now the ore walls are the perfect place to throw some international street art muralists from all over the world, from Brazil, from Germany, because these walls are perfect. They need very little touch up, but we would be adding something to the community that is long overdue. Never forget the steel mills. Now, a lot of times, a lot of the artists that are like this, they will go with a theme. I'm pretty sure Brother Felix will agree with me. Themes are possible when you come up with some ideas with a theme, and they would. And I believe that if we would be able to have control of those walls for say 5 years, you could have them back. Don't get me wrong. This is not something that's permanent, because the street art doesn't work that way. Say, for instance, later on, if they find out they want to do something with these walls, then you do it. But while they're there, let the artists have them and show the world what it is to leave something like a legacy or something with a tribute to what happened during this period.
Definitely.
That's a win.
One more thing, Roman.
Come in there and be able to see that. I mean, it's beautiful.
Oh yeah. One more thing.
Yes.
We have Indian boundary lines. South Chicago Avenue is an Indian boundary line. And now that they've taken the Columbus statue away from South Chicago, something needs to be done to commemorate the Indians that lived here before everybody else. And South Chicago Avenue would be a perfect place to put something commemorating the Native Americans that were here before all of us.
Well, I already have a design for that. My design is like, my design is this, it's a very simple design. Now, respecting Columbus, you know, all you have to do is just remember one thing: forget the word discovery. Don't use that word. Forget it ever existed. But you add the three elements: the American Indian, who were original people, then the immigrants that came here and created the steel mills and created what is industrial society here in Chicago, and the most important thing, the family.
Yeah.
That could be something that we could all share together without giving one person the glory that shouldn't be. It never should have been that way. And it all started because of the one word that never should have existed: discovery. And I believe we do have a balance for that sculpture, because then it includes everybody and it pays respect to everybody, because we are a diverse community in Chicago and Indiana because of the mills and all that. So that would, I think, kind of balance it. I'm not, that's just my idea. Brother Felix, I don't know what Brother Felix would think, but I think that would be a good project. What do you think, brother?
I love it. I love it for both of those areas.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Ideas.
Thank you.
But something that should be done.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And, you know, as much as we'd like to paint the world, you know, sometimes, you know, it could be an issue, you know, we got to go through, you know, city, you know, loops and whatnot. But, there's something very interesting to look into, and hopefully, we can get to talk to the right people and entertain the idea, and hopefully something comes out of that. That's a good observation, and I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, do others have questions? We can open it up right now to a Q&A session if you wish. You have to unmute yourself.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Can you either of you talk about the recent murals, the recent work under the bridge on Ewing Avenue in Chicago, and how that came about?
Is that would be the meaning of styles, Roman? Is that?
Yes, that's correct. With the
Yeah.
glass.
Again,
Yeah.
yeah, Meeting of Styles, as I mentioned earlier, it's an organization, it's a loose organization that puts together an annual graffiti art event. And it's a worldwide event, so it happens in Brazil, Mexico, it happens everywhere, all over the country. So it's an annual event, and it takes part every year around September in Chicago. So people from all over the Midwest and Chicago, of course, come and participate.
And let me add something to that particular meeting of styles. I don't know if anybody realizes, but it costs the artists money to do that. In other words, the people who organize it call them walls, free walls, but the actual expense comes from the artists themselves. In other words,
Right.
When you realize with the price of a can and the capital work that they're doing, the money that they're putting out of their own pocket to show the world what they're doing. It's not like we have a grant that says, okay, everybody's going to do this and you get paint. You don't even get that. Well,
Yeah, you're right, Roman. This event is very organic, very grassroots. There's no sponsorship. It's just all out of love and respect for the graffiti community, and that's what we do. So we put in our heart and our money into it.
So it's the sharing of styles that created those the artwork there in
No,
that
yeah.
particular location.
Yeah, it's an organization called Meeting of Styles. But
Okay.
there's different crews that go out there and participate, or individuals. We're not all called Meeting of Styles. It's just the event's called Meeting of Styles because different crews from different backgrounds and areas come together, converge, and we get together and we all basically just paint.
So did anyone have to get permission from the city or the railroad or anything?
Oh yeah, yes. We talked to we discussed with the county in Illinois, and no, this is all. I mean, it's legitimized. Sometimes it even gets blocked off, so we get city permit. So I mean, it's a legitimate event. Yeah, we get permit.
It's first of all, it's beautiful. I'm so happy to see it whenever I drive through there. And my second thought is, when will that group do the downtown, going through the downtown area on the Dan Ryan? Because right now it's not.
When they let Chicago buy spray paint. When they let Chicago buy spray paint, because obviously it's illegal in Chicago to buy spray paint. So.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Greetings, fellas. I'm Blake, one of the artists, and I've been doing nature drawings for years for inspiration and stuff. And I'm currently drawing some wildlife pictures from the Calumet area.
Nice. What type of medium are you using?
I use pencil, pen, marker, and color pencil.
Awesome.
To liven my pictures. And anybody who does nature pictures, wildlife, drawings on murals and stuff?
Well, I mean, I've worked on a couple pieces that involve nature and wildlife. So case in point, the environmental center, right, Michael?
Yeah,
We had, yeah, we had a nice mural up there, and it showcased a lot of local wildlife and local flora. So it was a lot of it was a lot of fun doing that one. So I've done a couple things, and I've got a couple buddies and artist friends that love nature painting too. I find it very relaxing and a nice departure from the traditional or the regular stuff that we do all day. So keep it up. Nature is always a good healing sort of therapeutic way to relax and think. So I really love painting nature stuff as well. So keep up the work.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
And
Myself, I did the work at Big Marsh. I did the sculpture, the 14-foot limestone piece with figures of animals, deer, coyotes, swans, squirrels, raccoons, in sculpture in 3-dimensional. But I remember you. I know your work. I've seen your work over the years because of Sky Art. I remember seeing you develop as a young artist. It's good to see you still working, doing your craft. I'm very proud of you. Keep up the
thanks,
good work.
man. And I'm also focusing on Native American plants, wild and cultivated. And you know, anybody who does Native American art?
Yes, I do. That's a very that's a common theme among a lot of artists that are more into the earth. So it is. Welcome to the club. I'm glad you're doing this because it's important that all the genres are covered, and that's one of them that's very, very important. I'm glad that you're doing that. Yes.
And you know of any Black artists who are doing some stuff for the Calumet area, like in places from the Underground Railroad and stuff?
Yes. I'm working with a project now called Bovian Woods. It deals with that concept. It should be going up, I think, this spring, but it's a collaboration of a lot of young artists under the leadership of Christina. Well, the artist is Christina, who works basically with trees. Yes, but we are doing one now. It should be coming up in the spring. Hopefully you'll join us when we showcase it.
Okay.
okay, do I have other questions? I was just going to mention to Felix that we like doing the environmental education center. And, you actually twice, right?
I'm sorry, I can't hear the question.
I'm sorry, Felix. I said, excuse me, that you like working on the environmental education center so much that you painted it twice, the exterior.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, when we were given a chance to paint that building, it was a nice time. We had fun. Like I said, showcasing natural animals and species from the area. So, I'm sorry, somebody's got.
Yeah, I'm trying to mute.
Hello.
That's better.
Oh, okay. Okay. What was the question one more time? I was trying to answer. I don't know what.
No, I was just mentioning that that you did the exterior twice and then you did the interior of half.
Yes, we did. Yeah, it was through a joint effort with 2 other guys, Marco Salazar and Gary Juarez. We painted the outside. We were in business at the time, and we were given a chance by the city of Hammond, and I forgot who else. Other people that were on sponsoring the I think the wastewater management treatment, something like that. They were part of it as well. But anyway, we were given the chance to showcase the like we mentioned, like Blake mentioned, the the region in terms of nature and whatnot. So it was a nice time doing that. And we also got the okay to go ahead and do the inside as well, which in there we kind of got a little creative and painted the floors. So the floors were painted with local fishes and type of plant and life that you see in lakes and their ponds in Wolf Lake. So it was a very fun time, and I really wish that that building would have stood up, because it really taught a lot of people. And I was very proud to be part of that. Yeah.
I think a lot of us missed the building, and hopefully we can come up with another one, Felix. So
yeah, that'd be nice. That's unfortunately that building, like I said, we just kind of, we can't, sulk about it. We
Yep.
got to think like Buddhas and just let nature do its thing. And, opportunity will present itself again, hopefully for us one day. So hopefully we'll get to work together. Yes.
and I do have a picture of that. So
Nice. Great. Great.
Roman has some memories of the Environmental Education Center too, I think.
Oh, yes, it was a very, we used to share a lot of early art adventures there. This one with Mike is trying to bring a 15-foot tall giraffe standing up down the road, which was impossible. It was whoever filmed it that day had a blast, because here's this giant giraffe going down the road, and we were hitting light poles. We had to find viaducts to be able to fit it in there. But with determination, we got it there. But it was fun. We had a lot of fond memories of being there. Thank you, Mike, for getting it started and sharing it all these years up to where we're at now. Good memories. Good memories.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Hey, Roman, what was that giraffe made of? Was it like straw?
Actually, the giraffe itself was made by a fellow artist named Surat Dupark.
But it was made out of
twigs. He made it out of twigs.
Wait,
And then my wife, Maria, asked permission to cast it into paper mache. So what she did is she wrapped it in paper, and we built another structure for it. So once it was built, we had this, this giraffe, out of paper mache. We was very creative on her part to be able to, and matter of fact, we had it there for a couple of years at the place. But like everything else, when we left Indiana, we had nowhere to put it. So the poor giraffes might have been a victim of what happens to a lot of us artists. When we have so much work, it just gets destroyed. Hopefully it didn't. Hopefully somebody took care and said, you know what, I'm going to keep this giraffe. Hopefully, but that happens to a lot of our artwork that
it's in the streets now, Roman. It's in the streets. It's in the streets now, Roman.
But good memories. Good memories. I mean, but like I said, but we have documentation of it and the story, which is really beautiful.
yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Somebody's got to have a question.
I have a question.
All right, Madeline.
Hi, everyone. So good to hear you, Roman and Flex, talk about your work. And I know there are many more stories. And as being an anthropologist, I of course want to capture all of them. And I'm wondering, one of the things, I think it's so interesting about what you're saying is just how impermanent art and even the art that is big and on, big walls outside, and how it can be there for a long time, or it can be, there for a very short time. And that I love that, like, juxtaposed with the idea of the slag, which, Roman, as you said, it's kind of there forever. What are we going to do with it? Make it into art. So I'm just kind of wondering, are there pieces and does any particular piece come to mind of yours that you would say, hey, this this piece of street art, this mural, this sculpture, something, I'd love for everyone, for you, of art, public art in the region, that I would be great if it were still there, but if it's not, something that maybe you had documentation of, or that you could write about, because it would be so nice to put together some kind of a book, or even something online where we could capture all of these great pieces of art that are there now, but that are, you know, maybe aren't there anymore, but of course are so worth knowing about. So what comes to mind just initially, just like one or two things?
Well, me personally, I remember when we first got to Indiana, we didn't have none of our equipment. It was just an empty studio. But what they did have was branches. So we started creating branch artwork with just screws and rope and tying and wire. And like me, myself personally, I made a whole herd of deer with wolves, all made out of twigs and branches and stuff like that. I mean, we were just having a great time right there. Then we had an excess of instruments. So we hung them on trees. We had bicycles, guitars, accordions, I mean, all kinds of things, but they were in a tree. Life is interesting, you know, because one, the sculptures that I made of the herd got burned by a little kid. I'm not gonna say if it was male or female, but he was an arsonist. He burned most of my work. The tree that we were so proud of, somebody stole everything. What were they gonna do with all these odd things that we had in the tree? But it was there for almost half a year. And we really enjoyed that whole concept of these things that were hanging. We had bicycles. I mean, it was really, really nice. And we got robbed. It was interesting, but I always feel when somebody takes something from you, it's an honor. It's not a disrespect, because they liked it so much that that's their way of saying, hey, man, I like what you're doing. They stole it. Thank you.
Yeah. That's a good one, Roman. You're right. You're right, man. No, you know, and in my case, you know, and going back to what Roman had mentioned earlier, that's why it's very, very important to document. It's very important to, you know, record and archive what you're working on, because, you know, I mean, I you know, us as artists, you know, we get so involved during the process and the project and the production and all that, you know, we forget to stop and document, you know, and it's kind of hard to try to document yourself while you're working and whatnot. So, I mean, it's very important for the future generation to, you know, be able to at least help us out a little and, you know, document some of this stuff so that hopefully, you know, everything gets archived, or, you know, I mean, at least hire somebody, right? So that's up to us, right? So that's the responsibility we're going to take. But all in all, you know, to answer your question, obviously for me, the most important piece that I wish would have stayed up would be the Jackson 5 mural on Broadway and Gary, Broadway and 5th and Broadway. You know, had I, you know, when I was presented that project, they asked me within that 4-block radius, they pick any wall you want, you know, and, you know, of course, I'm going to pick the one that's going to face the Skyway. And, you know, I'm just knowing that, you know, I was being, so that in itself, you know, was a mistake, because I come to find out, like, you know, 6 years later, that, you know, it's deemed for just demolition. So, I mean, like, why are you going to offer me a wall when it's going to be deemed for demolition, you know? So, but, you know, you learn. But the blessing, you know, and going full circle with this, you know, when it was gone, you know, I myself, you know, again, you know, you got to do the whole, you know, Buddha Wusa thing and just say, okay, life goes on. You know, you got what you got out of it. Hopefully people did too. The city was very upset. You know, the people of the city was very upset. So they're the ones that really reacted to that being taken down. But the redemption and it was when the mural was actually saved. It was documented and saved by a documentary from Janet Jackson. I don't know if anybody watched the documentary of Janet Jackson. Whole 4-hour event just to see what happened. You could watch the first 5 minutes of it and find out. Then you'll see in the opening credits, Janet Jackson doing a tour of the city of Gary while she's talking to her producer, her documentary guy. She surprisingly finds the mural, and her reaction to it was just priceless. So, you know, that in itself, you know, just made it just that much better for, and just knowing that of all people, you know, that did see it, although it could be just one little girl that you know, that impacted her life, that would be great. But to know that it went back full circle to the family, you know, that right there was like, I mean, you don't have an artist that, you know, as an artist, you would wish that if you were being, you know, if you're painting, you know, Mick Jagger, you know, anybody, any kind of celebrity, that you would want to see their reaction of their face, you know, and not too many artists get to see that. They ship it out and then they hope for the best, right? But to see that reaction, you guys got to check it out. It was called Janet. It was on A&E or something like that. And all you got to see is the first 5 minutes of it, and then the title of the documentary starts, and you'll see. So that was a very important lesson and a blessing for me at the same time.
Thank you. It's so cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I have another question. Roman, can you talk about your exhibit at the Intuit Museum?
Sure. Sure. Basically, the work at the Intuit are me sharing to the world my experiences from this area, from the 10th Ward. What we refer to it as, it's basically referred to as the corridor, which includes Indiana and all the Mills area. So that to me, and that show is kind of important to me, because being an outside artist, place like this, show this kind of artwork, like that.
Somebody needs to be
That
muted.
whoever seeing this has an opportunity to come see the show. I think Mike just went there about a week ago.
Yes, that,
So,
and I had,
but
that was very interesting to me. Particularly like all the information that was attached to each exhibit. I learned a lot, even though I've known Roman for 20-some years. I learned a lot. Visiting.
well, I recommend it, but what's going to be interesting, November 12th is a very busy day for me for some strange reason. All these things but that day at 5 o'clock, November the 12th, there's going to be a film shown by Stephen Walsh from this community, and it's called City Within a City. And that film kind of explains a lot of the artwork that I have showing at the Intuit Gallery to visually, so that people could actually see the work, look at the titles and the stories that are behind all the pieces. But then when you see a film that relates exactly to what these figures are, it's kind of really interesting. I mean, if I would have thought this is a collaboration, I never knew it would even happen. But the fact that life gave us an opportunity to be able to share this together. So whoever has an opportunity, if you miss it at the 12th, November 12th into it, hopefully it will be shown more of wider audience, because right now, I think it's been shown like maybe 3 times. But I believe that once it's discovered, I believe that the young man has a winner in what he put together. And hopefully this is going to be one of many projects that he has, because we're very proud of him. Stephen Walsh.
So this is going to be at the Intuit on the 12th of November at 5 p.m.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. Good. Thank you for sharing that.
I believe it's going to be a very busy day for me that day.
Yes, I'm gonna pipe up here because some of Roman's work that we have at the Field Museum, we have some of Roman's pieces that we have as part of our collection at the Field Museum. We are going to be showing some of his pieces in a new exhibit that's going to open actually on November 11th called Calumet Voices National Stories. And it's going to be at the Field Museum for about a year. So until next October 22nd. So please come see the show. It'll be, as I said, it'll be here for about a year, and it has all kinds of objects and stories, including Roman's work from the region. And we are going to be doing some programming, so stay tuned for that. I'm trying to get some ideas percolating for an arts tour related to the exhibit, but stay tuned. But please do come see the exhibit.
So that's November the 11th.
It opens the 11th, but you personally are going to be here on the 12th at 2. So there's a we have a little thing on the 12th at 2, but the
Okay.
exhibit opens the day before. So
Okay, well, we'll work something out, definitely. No, I'll be there.
yeah. I know you're a busy guy. We have to get you, we have to slot you, get you right at the right time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Kate, if there's one more question, we have time for one more question.
Excuse me, I just want to ask which tools and stuff you use to draw, you use for painting and stuff.
Roman? No, I don't. You?
Well, I use myself personally, other than spray paint, I use all the media, drawing, pencil, chalk, acrylics, oils. It's good to experiment with all the medias and practice. Because practice, you evolve, you'll even surprise yourself. I suggest that all the medias that are available to you, you try them. Pastels, excellent material to learn to mix, to blend. Watercolors. It's a hard media. Watercolors are hard media to master, but it's a good one once you get the flow of it. The secret to watercolor is you have to have a soft hand. Your hand has to be light. Being a sculptor, I have to wait a while whenever I do watercolors because my hands are heavy. I'm a sculptor. But they all have their little tricks to everything.
Yeah.
I enjoy oil painting a lot, but it's a little smelly. But it's fun. It's fun because the blending process gives you a lot of room to do it. Brother Felix?
Yeah. I agree with Roman. Absolutely. I use I try to switch it up, once in a while. It gets boring to just use a can all the time, and then sometimes so you have. I use digital, I work on a Procreate as well. So lately a lot of my designs have been executed on a computer, on a pad now, which is pretty cool, interesting, cool now. But I just try to use every medium I can. I love watercolor. I love pastels as well too. I love working with that. But just like any of those mediums, you got to be bad at it first before you get good. So practice.
Ready. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going through the chat. Going to see if there was a question here.
I just wanted to thank both the artists for their work, past, present, and future. Thank you for listening to my questions earlier about South Chicago Avenue, the Indian boundary, and Wisconsin Steel. Thank you both.
Yes,
Thank you.
I want to add my thanks to the two, and thank you very much. And we'll be watching for your works in the future as well.
Thank you.